Hello and welcome to VoiceOver Plaza, the podcast from directvoices.com, the VO marketplace, where voice talents meet voice seekers directly without middlemen.
Interview with Randye Kaye, broadcaster, voice talent, author, speaker, and actress. Thanks, Randye, for participating in this podcast from Direct Voices.
My pleasure to be here.
Randye, where are you located actually?
I'm actually right now in Trumbull, Connecticut. So Connecticut is a tiny state compared to others, but where I live, it's about an hour ride by train if it's an express to New York City. So I'm in the New York City area, but I live in Connecticut.
Randye, you are more than a voice artist. You are a real communicator. You write books and teach about presentation skills, for example. Tell us something more about your career.
Okay, we were chatting before, and a lot of voice talents I find come from other areas, and this is either a part of a full career. It almost always is. And in times in my life, it's been back burner, and other times it's been front burner. But it's part of it, you put it beautifully, a communications career. I began with a desire to be a Broadway star. Glee was me, and I learned guitar, I did songwriting, I sang folk songs. I lived in New York for 4 years, LA for 4 years, and I did a smattering of acting on stage, on TV, on film. And then I really decided it was important to have an offstage life as well. So got married, got pregnant. And when I was pregnant with my son, I wanted to continue to do the only thing I knew how to do, which was communicate and act. And friends suggested I get into voiceovers while I was pregnant. And I thought, oh, great. So I went through the process, coaching, demo, looking for clients, and started and never looked back. It's always been a part of my career. That baby is now 31 years old, so I know I've been doing voiceovers for 31 years. And at times, it's been back burner. And by that, I mean I always service my current clients, always get the projects in on time. But it would be back burner because for a while, I might be doing a show in theater. Or for 15 years, I was a full-time radio talent. So that, voiceover was in my time when I wasn't at the radio station. As you know, I wrote a book, so that took, you can mix writing and voiceover pretty well. In promoting the book, I had to put voiceover on back burner, which basically means no marketing to new clients. That's really all it means to me. So I put it sort of back burner while promoting the book was front burner. And currently, voiceover is my bread and butter. It's how I pay my bills. And to kind of support that, I coach for Edge Studio in New York and Connecticut. They're kind of all over the place now. I coach for them a little bit. It's not the biggest part of my career. Actually doing voiceover is. I also, as you say, I do teach presentation skills. I'm a diversity trainer for the Anti-Defamation League. About a few times a year, I teach school kids about cyberbullying and diversity, and sometimes go into corporations. I do some speaking on behalf of the book, which is about advocating for those with mental illness issues and their families. And I do theater and I sing, and it all kind of, it creates a career. I find the more that I do, the more interesting I become, and you can bring that into voiceover.
So you're like a Swiss knife of communications because you have so many skills related to, communicating to other people through different media and, voice talent, but also actress and so many things. Talking about your work as a trainer, as a coach, do you have maybe some tips handy for voice talents that are experienced and maybe they don't know some certain things they should apply to improve their skills?
All of my friends that are working voice talents, they know a few things, which is, first of all, it's a business. And if you're an experienced voice talent, you know that some things do sometimes fall into your lap if you're just good at what you do and you keep out there and you do it. But you need to know when you need to put the extra effort. Most of my friends know, look, there are days that come and no jobs come in, and those are the days you spend marketing. So you obviously keep the business flowing, keep those arteries clear. I also attend something called FAFCON in the United States, which is an unconference for professional voiceover talents. And we gather and drink and eat, but we also teach each other. And it's a fascinating thing. And every time I go, I learn something new from a fellow voice talent. And among those things are, keeping fresh, using social media to keep in touch with your customers, new skills, new talents, new ways to use the home studio. So I would say keep learning is one of the most fun parts of the business. Last Sunday, I just attended a workshop with Joe Cipriano, who's a great promo voice in the States. And, I'll go to a class to learn. Of course, we never stop learning. We never stop trying to get better. So definitely keep learning, keep working your business plan. And I love that you have to kind of know what your strengths are. So I know what my voice is. I know what I'm most likely to get cast in. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try out for those other things if I think I might have an interesting twist, but it's a constant process in voiceover, as it is in life, to keep rediscovering yourself. Who am I? What can I do next? So my goal for this year is to get deeper into radio imaging and promos, which I absolutely love. And I want to add that I've done some things for NBC and PBS, but I'd like to add more of that to that. So keep service your clients first, but keep moving ahead and finding out what new genres work for you, but know your strengths and stay with your strengths. I know I'm very castable in medical and e-learning and retirement community advertisements, and so you know what you're good at, but keep expanding.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, because there's so much competition out there. Many talents chasing more and more jobs. That's true. The market has expanded due to the new media, etc. But still, it's not easy to find your niche, even if you are an experienced talent. So what does it take to really succeed, to earn a living out of the voice over business?
I have this right by my desk, and it says, run your own race. And this inspires me because it's very easy to get into this talent book, that, especially if you go on Facebook and people, I don't want to call it bragging, but they're excited and they post their latest job. And sometimes I do it. I'll put it on my Facebook page so that if prospective clients want to know what I've done, they can go to my page and see that I'm working. And look, if I got booked to be the voice of CBS, I would probably put it on Facebook. But I try not to do it too much. And I try not to compare, because if you go on Facebook and someone says, oh, I just booked my 50th audiobook, and you're not running your own race and you're trying to race against them, it's very distracting. So run your own race, do your own personal best, know what you like to do and what you don't like to do. We're all human, and if they won an award for an audiobook, part of me will get jealous, and then part of me is like, wait a minute, I don't love doing audiobooks. I've done some, but for me, that's a back burner genre. So why would I be jealous of that? So I have to kind of talk myself out of that and say, you know what, Randye, what you love to do, pursue that. And just like there are certain jobs, all skills being equal, there are certain jobs that want the perky, bubbly voice. And I can fake that, but why would they hire someone who can fake it when there's someone who can just do it beautifully? So I like to go after what I'm good at. And I always tell my new students and anybody else who asks me, the goal is not to get a gig. The goal is to, if possible, be so good when you get that gig that they know you. Yes. And they don't want to go through the trouble of casting someone else. So they're just going to go back to you. And we love to get emails from a client saying, we loved what you did last time. Here's another project for you. So the goal is to stay as good as you can, run your own race. You keep exploring other tracks, but just service your clients really, really well and care about them and care about the listener and care that the listener gets that message, whether it's how to be an open fire burning official in Connecticut 300-page tutorial, or whether it's a 30-second commercial telling them how great this new foundation is. If you care about your listener and you care about your client and you do the work and you run your own race, you can avoid that. Why would they hire me? There's so many other people out here. So there's no one like you. But if you're not good at what you do, nobody cares.
Absolutely. The niche is your uniqueness, the fact that you just have your voice and nobody else has your voice and skills. But for those outsiders, and those newbies, the beginners also, we have to stress something that is obvious in our profession, that a nice sounding voice is not enough to really succeed. You have, well, the skills, experience, and actually the marketing as well. So
Yes.
and at this very moment that there's the new media, we have to add the commercial side, the marketing side. So I guess that's something that we shouldn't forget, that we have to promote ourselves. So here, from the European perspective, it's hard to do because people are not used to selling themselves as
Yes.
it is customary in the United States, that more commercial in that respect. So how important is marketing and that commercial side of a voice talent to really succeed in this profession?
Yes, we Americans are a little louder than, like, here I am. But, it's not easy for us either. We never want to sell ourselves. And I think there are salespeople and service people, and I like to think of myself as a service people. I would do terrible on commission if I were in a store. I would just be like, let me help you, let me help you. And I know that about myself. So I try to think of marketing as helping the client find somebody without having to go through a lot of effort. But it's frightening. That called, why did you hire me? So is it important? Absolutely. I tell my new students that you must, before you make your demo, you must be thinking about marketing from the very beginning. Take longer before you record your demo so that you can find out what you enjoy doing, because if it's on your demo, you better be so good at it that if you get a job tomorrow, you're going to make that customer into a regular client. And that takes a process. Figure out, you don't want to say, oh, I want to be an athlete. You think, well, is it basketball? Is it football? Do I want to run track? You have to figure all that out before you know what kind of athlete you want to specialize in. It won't be that you don't enjoy the other things. So before you make your demo, get your skills together. And part of that is figuring out who you're going to market yourself to. So if you decide, my God, I love medical. I'm not, but someone is a former nurse, or for me, my hobby is neuroscience. And so I love big words and I love to communicate. So I love to do medical because it's something that I appreciate the listener needs the information. So there would be a medical piece on my narration demo. So figure out what you want, figure out who you're going to market to. If you've completed your demo, you should already have begun your marketing by having a list of prospective clients, and you only have to look to your first demo to see who you're going to market to. And then as you progress in your career, see who's hiring you and who's not hiring you, and your niche may become clear. If people hire you again, then you're good at that. So marketing it's integrated like this. It is not, my talent here and my marketing here. It's together, because you'll figure out what you're good at, what your strengths are. And the more classes you take, even when you're up and working, or the more you network with other people or go to workout groups, you'll discover new niches, what the marketing business would call line expansion. So if you have Fritos, you can have cayenne pepper flavored Fritos, so figure out how you can expand your line, but start with your strengths. So marketing is essential. So is home studio skills. That didn't used to be true.
Yes. Randye, talking a little bit more about what makes the difference in this business. It's not just about the voice. Probably there are many other ingredients. We just mentioned the marketing, but also, you need to have some presentation skills, and you know a lot about that. But there is a paradox that some people who even experience excellent voice talents, they are very good, of course, actually reading a script. But when it comes to presenting, to be in front of an audience, for instance, they are not at ease. So there's a kind of paradox. Of course, there are two different skills or jobs there, but I think that there are sometimes they are connected. Sometimes voice talents are asked to present or sound as if they are presenting in front of an audience. Can you explain this kind of paradox?
Yes, you're right. It is a paradox of sorts, and they're separate but related things. I always tell people that, we learn to speak because we want a result. And we use our face, we use our body, and almost every culture uses their hands unless it's considered rude and it's kind of frowned upon, then you learn not to use your hands so much. But most people in America are very, like this. So when you're behind the microphone, there's two differences between public speaking and voiceover. And one of them is obviously in voiceover, you have to imagine your audience is there. And 99 times out of 100, that audience is an audience of one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Unless you're doing a voiceover that is meant for a group, like if I do an awards show, then it's going to be like, and the Effie Award goes to, so we're doing a big announcer kind of read or a movie trailer, anything that's going to be played in a group, you can have that big presentational read. But most of the voiceovers you're doing are listened to by that person alone in their car, or that person alone at their computer taking the online training, or an audiobook that's in earbuds. So you need to be much more intimate in voiceover than you do when you're presenting to a crowd. The other difference, of course, is that when you're presenting to a crowd, hopefully you are not just reading from a page, although some people do that. They write a speech and they present it. So writing a speech and presenting it can be very similar skills to voiceover, except that you just need to be bigger. There may be 1,000 people in the audience. But when you're doing presentation from an outline, there's a lot of improv that goes on. You need to really relate to your audience and care about them and allow that communication to happen. But you still need to be free with those gestures. You need to be yourself. So there's elements of improv in voiceover, depending on the project. But when you're reading from a page, I sometimes coach people to do that. And you still have to do similar things. You have to find your keywords, know what point you're making, know where the copy is going, know what story you're telling, so that you're not just reading, because we learn to read very left brain. It's one word at a time. And it's awful. You know when someone's reading and they don't know what they're saying. So either way, presenting from a written script or voiceovering from a written script, you need to know the story you're telling, whether you wrote it yourself or whether someone wrote it for you.
Body language, when it comes to reading on the mic, just a script to do a voiceover in the booth.
Yes.
How important it is also to use some kind of body language, because we've been told all the time by producers, well, you have to smile while you read to. That's true. There's an effect when you smile. You don't see, but you can hear the smile, sort of. I guess the body,
Yes.
The rest of the body, if you use your body also when you are sitting down or just standing, whatever you're reading, I guess there's also some extra, some added value there, right?
Oh, I have to say that there are rare exceptions, but almost every voice talent I know who... You have to take the written script, which somebody else wrote, and is often in the narration field in language that is nothing like the way we would speak. It is written for the eyeballs. It's not written for the ear. So there are commas and semicolons, and it looks great to the eye. It separates ideas, but it's not the way we speak. And there are degrees of casual. There are degrees of, conversation. So it's not... They always say sound like you're talking to someone, but there's talking to someone at a job interview when you're really kind of filtering your words and trying to speak grammatically correctly. And then there's talking like we're talking now, or then even more casual, talking after a couple of glasses of wine. So, there's all kinds of casual, but our body language will help to convey that. We don't think about our body language in regular life. We just do it. And so I can't tell you how many of my students go, but I don't use my hands when I speak, and their hands are going all over the place because they're not aware of it. We really can't communicate well without using our bodies. If you look at a child communicate, they don't stand there like this and go, oh, dear daddy, I would like a cookie. We use our face. If you raise your eyebrows, it's going to change your read. If you widen your eyes, look what just happened to my voice. I just said, Randy, widen your eyes, and it came out breathy and enticing. But facial language and body language changes everything. And it also makes you more aware so that you're not focused on your voice all the time and judging yourself. It brings the energy outward to the listener. Now, I do know I have some voice talents I've worked with who, you know what, they had their hands in their pockets the whole time, but their face is very active, and that's just who they are. I'm a real hands person. Now, if I'm on camera, I have to be aware of my gestures and make them much less because they're very distracting. But in voiceover, there's the freedom of so much body language. I can look as ugly as I want. I can make the ugly witch face if I'm going to do a witch, so I don't have to worry about the camera, which I love. So there is always that little bit of awareness. But if you're not using your body language, it means you're stressed, and you can feel it in your shoulders, and you can feel it in your neck, and your voice is going to sound as stressed and tense as your body is.
So the advice is, yes, use that body language, move your hands, as long as, of course, you don't make noise, or because the mic could pick it up, but that's obvious.
Right.
You said, Randye, attitudes, feelings, emotions, body language, they are important to do this job right. But how can you do when you are sometimes on your own, when you are alone in your home studio without any feedback?
That's a very important thing. I've done a couple of webinars on self-direction. And, that's the thing. When I started in this business, or let's go, when you're speaking in front of an audience, you get immediate feedback, even if it's negative. Like, you tell the joke, it falls flat. So first of all, whenever you have the privilege of working in the booth with a director, which we own at the beginning, you at least had your client in the booth with you. Like, you'd go to a studio. When I started my business, I was always traveling to the studio. I was marketing to recording studios, and the client or the producer would be right there, or the client would be on the phone. So you had immediate feedback. And I still do that on occasion. So whenever you are in a position on the phone patch or ISDN or in a booth to be directed, pay attention to the direction, and carry that with you so that you have an awareness. When you're not working, practice by recording yourself and listening back so that what you're planning to do actually comes through to the ears. Attend as many workshops as you can. Don't get rusty. Then when you're alone in your booth, you'll have those tools at your disposal that I think 90% of me has to just be free to perform, but there's that 10% that has to be kind of listening while you're performing. So while you're in the booth, so that you didn't hit the microphone, so that if you didn't say the word right, so that if it just doesn't sound right. And have the freedom to let that director be there, but don't let it be a harsh judge. And give the client what they want. And also, I'd say before you get in the booth to record, communicate with your client as much as you can and say, there's a couple of ways I could approach this copy. Absolutely. Sometimes I'll send a test read to the client. I'll say, this is sort of 9 times out of 10, these are the two choices. This is sort of a corporate, professional, authoritative sound, more formal. And this is sort of a casual, you can say, welcome to American Airlines. You can go, welcome to American Airlines. So I'll send them the 2 test reads and say, which tone would you prefer? And sometimes they don't pick the one I thought they were going to pick. So have an idea of what you want to do, and then do your best. And when you're listening back, put your director hat on. And if there's a sentence that you don't believe, or it's just, I didn't say, then go back and re-record that sentence.
Yeah, the feedback can be immediate if you have the privilege, as you said, of having a director, a producer, a client there in your studio. Or just, the feedback could come later, because you send your MP3 just for your client to test, and then you get the answer back maybe in an hour or two. So it comes to the same thing. You need that feedback because you don't know if you're doing right or not. Anyway, in your books, Randye, you are a promoter of positive thought. We know that everybody knows that it's very positive, very, very good for life in general. But how important it is when it comes to recording a voiceover?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. I have written one book, and it is really about my family's resilience and my son's resilience with his severe mental illness of schizophrenia, and our journey from chaos to hope. But yes, positive thought has been a great healer for me in any situation of adversity. So when I write, I have the radio show and stuff, and we do talk about positive thought. And the way it ties into my voiceover career is I believe that words have power. Because we've heard them our whole lives, we associate different words with different feelings. So, for instance, if you call someone stupid or you call yourself stupid, that's much harsher than calling yourself silly. It's like, oh, silly me, I made that mistake again, is much gentler and sweeter to yourself than saying, oh, that was stupid. I mean, that makes my body tense up just to hear that word. So note that language has such power. The way we speak to others, the way we speak to ourselves, and we're often most harsh on ourselves. So I don't like books on happiness that take 300 pages to read. It's just like, it's not that complicated, you know? So I just talk about word swaps. So if you say, oh, I have to do that project today, you're not going to go into the booth with a very positive attitude. If you change have to get to, oh, I get to do that project today. That is so much more powerful. And just that word swap kind of puts you in a place of gratitude. I feel so privileged when somebody entrusts their script to me, to allow my voice the privilege to bringing it to life. If you ever say, oh, this is boring, you are not going to do that client any justice. You know, I'll bring up again that 300-page e-learning that I did on how to be an open fireburning official in the state of Connecticut. Now, I was privileged to share that with a fellow voice talent, so we were back and forth, but it had to be in legal language. It's very wordy. I happen to like words. So, you know, if I were to start judging that as boring, you know what? It's not boring to my listener. The listener needs that information. So tell yourself, I'm doing important stuff here. It's important to the person who's listening. And that word swap, that's positive thought too. Don't judge your copy. Do the best with your copy. And when you get the privilege of being in the booth, sure, you know, you get tired. You may need a break. It's hard work, but we are so lucky to have it. So positive thought. And one more trick I use, if I audition for stuff and I don't get it, which at least 19 times out of 20, that's what's going to be the case. I always say, oh, I must have come in second. So I figured,
so true.
I imagine they had a really hard time deciding which voice, and they almost went with me, but oh well, I came in second. It's a little trick I play with myself because I'll never know. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is to sum it up. It's not about the voice only. It's about attitudes, about emotions, about your body language we mentioned, and that's very important too because we had to add something of ourselves into script, any script, and that's very important. And you have to keep that feeling all along your career. I mean, in my case, 25 years doing this, and there's still an excitement. And I try to be positive. Sometimes you have in front of your eyes a script that is probably poorly written, or there are some things that are not, nicely put. Whatever. Of course. That's the nature of the text. You may do something to improve it, but to read it, to convey the thoughts and the feelings there, well, that's why you are hired. So that's we should actually stress that point. Anyway, thank you very much again for this time and comments, Randye.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That's all for this interview from VoiceOver Plaza, the podcast from DirectVoices.com, the VO Marketplace, where voice talents meet voice seekers directly without middlemen. Check out our blog, VoiceOver Plaza, for more tips and tools to succeed in voice acting. So head on over to DirectVoices.com/Plaza. We are happy to read your comments there.